I can easily sum up my entire software development career in just 6 words.
I don't know about.
Let me explain. 1 year ago, I was posting a video describing my first impressions on Astro JS, a really powerful framework which employs various smart strategies and allows you to build HTML-first, zero JavaScript web apps. Just like other popular tools such as Quick or Next.js, Astro is employing the server-in component rendering and moves away from the single-page application architecture. Of course, SPAs and client-side rendering are still valid approaches and they have various use cases, but for a little while, it looked like the multi-page application architecture is having a comeback in the JavaScript world. To be fair, MPAs are far from being a novel concept. They are actually the OGs of building web apps. The JavaScript space is filled with trends and revolutionary ideas developers are eager to follow, so when a better alternative to the current standard was presented, a lot of people got really excited really quickly. Because of my background in Java, going back to relying more on the server and avoiding loading up tons of JavaScript in the client felt like a breath of fresh air. After all, Astro's benchmark results spoke for themselves, and if you spent just a couple of months in the front-end world, you are probably familiar with the large amount of JavaScript we send to the browser just to achieve some basic tasks. So here we are, all excited about meta frameworks, better app performance, and yet more stuff we have to learn. What is my issue though? Well, at the core of these meta frameworks, you'll always find a file system-based router. Even newer tools such as Solid Start were relying on this new routing approach, which is gaining massive popularity. Some of these ideas and trends are clearly summarized in this article written by the Solid JS creator. The gist of it: single-page apps aren't the most suited architecture for everything, and the server should be employed more in the whole process. Okay, so it all makes sense now, and the community is finally in agreement. We explored SPAs and MPAs, and after a decade, we finally got the hang of it. Based on what we've learned, Ryan is drawing the following conclusions in his article. If I could sum up the greatest alignment between framework leaders in 2022, is that the routing belongs to the server. Great stuff. Let's now fast forward a few months to March 2023, when the client-side routing issue was opened in Astro's roadmap repository. Reading from their motivation statement, as users build increasingly complex experiences with Astro, UI persistence has suffered as a clear missing piece in the full Astro story. Client-side routing is currently the only way to achieve UI persistence across navigations. Okay, so wait. I thought we were all in agreement that routing belongs to the server. Astro, one of the main proponents of the modern MPA approach, was building its entire architecture on top of the file system-based router, and they were hitting the ball out of the park performance-wise. But now, it turns out we actually need client-side routing as well. Don't get me wrong, I am still a big fan of Astro. I actually started to use it in real projects in the past year, and I don't think they are at fault here. However, it's becoming easier and easier to see why other dev communities are frowning when they are considering the JavaScript space. After all, you can reliably build production-ready, performant apps in frameworks like Rails or Elixir for years, and their core architecture always stays the same. I know, you might say I'm comparing apples to oranges, and to some extent you might be right. However, all I am saying is that I can see the reasoning behind simply switching to an established Ruby on Rails stack and simply use Alpine as a progressive enhancement tool for the JavaScript needs. However, I still believe we are moving into the right direction in the JavaScript space. The likes of Vite, Solid and Astro are finally pushing everybody forward towards simplicity and efficiency. Also, granted, in the grand scheme of things, having a client or a server-side router has little importance. On top of that, Astro is going to still follow its core fundamental beliefs, which means we'll still have server-side routing as a default approach and a zero JavaScript dependency policy. I'm not blaming them for the current situation. If anything, they spent the last year doing rapid development and listening to the community. Astro 2.0 was released just a few months back, and everything in that version made me understand that the team behind it wants Astro to be a real solution for modern web problems. However, changes like these are the ones making people state that the MPAs are dead, and that the single-page application and the client-side rendering were the answer all along. So here we are, preparing ourselves for yet another round of debates and endless discussions about the best approach to move forward, and here I am again, realizing that
I don't know about.